Welcome to the Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. Back this week again with my brother Austin Douglas. How you doing today, sir?
Fantastic. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Guys, if you've been listening along to the last several weeks what we chat about, but particularly last week, we've been covering this concept and this topic of failure a lot. Embracing failure in your life, embracing challenge, finding opportunity within it, and then taking it one step forward to accepting it and using it as a driving fuel to push you forward and help you grow stronger in pursuit of your goals. We're going to go to the next phase of this journey today, start talking about reaching for a higher potential, reaching for the stars, if you will. And if embracing failure and embracing challenge is the part of the journey where you face the impossible, then this would be the part of the journey where you become impossible. And that's the part that we are most focused on with our messaging, because this is the part where you actually literally change who you are. You build a stronger, better version of yourself, an impossible version of yourself, a version who could not or should not otherwise have existed without this challenge that you face. And it's the version that will ultimately, as we will eventually dive into, do the impossible. But we want to spend a good amount of time on this reaching for the stars, this building and establishing and accepting a belief in a higher potential for you and your life and the pursuit of your goals, and how you can set up a daily process to ultimately become this impossible version of yourself. But before we dive into all that, number one thing we ask on this episode and on this show and as across all of our platforms, number one thing we ask is that if you get something out of today's episode, pause this video, scroll down a little bit, click the share button on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple or wherever you're listening, copy the link, go over and paste it into a text message and send it to as many people as you know who you believe it would help, because that is how we ultimately accomplish our mission and our vision at Impossible Performance. So if you can help us by sharing this episode with others, living this mission and message in your daily life, and ultimately building this impossible version of yourself, then we've accomplished everything we're here to do. So we highly appreciate it. And if you want to learn more and become part of the conversation that happens in the podcast, both in future episodes and current and past episodes, then click the top link in our show notes there and join our school online community, where we have courses, we have regular webinars and group calls, and we get to discuss a lot of these challenging, nuanced topics at a much greater length. And it's been a really phenomenal platform to be able to grow and learn with others, and share in a lot of our daily actions, our daily struggles, and our daily growth with like-minded people without any of the clutter of ads or the division that exists on social media sometimes. So check out the school community, share this episode with others, and we highly appreciate everything you guys do in helping us grow this platform. But with that, let's take it back a little bit, because I know last time we talked about, particularly in your journey of facing failure, and sometimes how we have failure that comes from instances that we place ourselves in, like me with failing 500-pound squat the first time around. But then we've got a different type of failure, and that's the failure of like unchosen failure, where some life has thrust some circumstance or some event upon you, and you have to choose how you're going to respond to it. Mm-hmm. And we discussed that pretty heavily with your cancer journey. And I'd like to then kind of transition that to, once you've accepted this failure, once you understand that, like, hey, this is my responsibility, I'm going to grow from this situation, I'm going to assume the power from this situation over the situation, how do you then look up and see that world of potential that lies out there? Because I think that's a really critical, it's a crucial part of the process, but I think it's extremely challenging as well. When you feel like you're at the lowest of lows that you can be as a human, how do you go from that kind of rock bottom place to look up at the stars and say, I'm meant to go there?
There are two ways that I found myself looking up in the stars. First was in a physical sense, in that I carried myself, as you said, accepting responsibility from those moments of involuntary suffering, taking responsibility and realizing that you are not who your mind is telling you that you have become. It's first just a weight off your shoulders. It really can. It can bring you to your knees, and in a very good way, that realizing that you can hold yourself accountable for how you've been behaving and feeling, and do something extremely positive with it after going through so much negativity. And for me physically, it was giving myself constant reminders that there was a path forward while looking forward. Because looking back in those moments had caused a lot of pain, it would cause a lot of just flashback after flashback, like memories that were just not okay, not. It's a better way to put them. Obviously, look, when you're going through cancer treatment, there's a moment, there's a time and a place to reflect back upon where you had been and what you were going through. But when I was looking up towards the stars, kind of questioning the universe and what I could do to get out of this rut that I was in, it was very much put the blinders on for a moment. Just, for a day, for a few days, for a week, for a few weeks, maybe even longer. Let's put some blinders on and just keep our gaze forward. Mm-hmm. Keep our mind and body focused on something that is just forward moving. Mm-hmm. And if you stop, if you have a setback, I think even then you need to continue with that mindset of just looking forward. So an example to be able to use was I would write down, and because journaling was a huge part of this transformation for me, at least. So physically, I would help myself by journaling and putting down and writing down sort of these feats that I had accomplished every single day. And as we've discussed many, many times before, and we'll continue to discuss, having as many trophies as you can put on a shelf is simply just going to be more and more and more. There's going to be more room for you to understand that these trophies mean something, and the more that you can have up there, the better, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so journaling, writing down these little feats that I would make, or that I would accomplish throughout the days, was really, really helpful for my body to continue to move forward, because not only one was I literally moving, mm-hmm. I was training, I was working, and I was wanting to put my body through a little bit of voluntary suffering to counteract and to balance from all the involuntary suffering I had experienced during chemo. Because one thing physically that really caused me much pain, but also a lot of divisiveness with myself, was the inability to move while you're on chemo, the desire to just lay there, and the hope that you don't have to feel whatever you're feeling in that moment, and the sort of disconnectum that occurs when you're on chemo, especially the heavier chemo, especially the bone marrow transplant. That chemo regimen was utterly insane, and so there were days that I was just sitting there hoping for the day to end, and then I can get into the next day. and then hoping for that day to end so that I can get into the next day, and so that I could get into the next week. And so when it came down to this transformation, and in the physical sense, continuing to move, because a body in motion tends to stay in motion, I wanted to keep myself in, firstly, noting down what I was accomplishing throughout the days. And these were things that were fairly menial. For the majority of them would be doing the laundry, cleaning this, moving that, helping somebody with this, helping somebody with that. Those were a lot of feats. Like I would try to help grandpa with a few things, or this or that. And so you write these things down, and you're like, okay, well, I accomplished quite a bit today. And then, so I'm able to keep my body moving by realizing the potential of what movement can mean, though I state that it's menial in the short-term sense, but in the long-term sense, you do that day after day after day after day after day, it's going to compound into something absolutely incredible for you, because then you're going to look and you're going to go, yeah, this is how you life. This is what you're supposed to be doing, you know? Because I for me personally, I lived such an up and down roller coaster kind of life before I was diagnosed. And so engaging within that accountability and responsibility for self was mightily important in the physical sense as well as the mental sense. And in the mental sense, the transformation was made possible when, as I'm looking up towards the stars, I put myself in that position of visualizing who and where and what I was to become in 6 months' time, in 1 year time, 1 year's time, and so on and so forth. And putting that mental picture together is mightily important, because, you know, when you picture yourself in the future, I really hope that you're not an individual that sees that future version of yourself in a rough situation. I'm really hoping that you're not engaging in practices that, when you see yourself, it is this human being that has not evolved, that has not progressed, that has not accomplished feats that you have dreamt of taking on and achieving over the past 6 months, year, 10 years, or, you know, for as long as you could remember. So when that when the responsibility of building up the mental sense and preparedness and ultimately achievement for the future is just simply looking towards the stars, looking towards something that is just incredibly bright, that being the future, and that being yourself. And that comes through setting goals that are not only there to entice you to do better on the daily, but also that scare you just a little bit, that frighten you just a smidge, because, and this is something that I have a lot of experience with, because the goals that I had placed upon myself back a long time ago when I was in university were goals that were okay. And when I would achieve, I'd come to achieve most of them, not all of them. If I would have achieved all of them, I would be in a music school right now. I clearly am not. And so, but the ones that I had achieved, it was great to achieve them. But even the ones that I hadn't, because of just life occurring, I think they didn't scare me enough to really motivate me to just pursue them until it was too late. And that too late was 4.5 months before I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was diagnosed with cancer, involuntary or not, but certain life choices in the previous year leading up to that certainly would have been avoided if I had not made them, and thus I could be in music school right now. Like, I may not even be here at the moment, but I'm very thankful to be here, because I think, and I know that the individual that I am now, I'm so extremely thankful for this Austin coming to fruition and the evolution of which I've gone through over the past 3.5 years, I don't want to say it couldn't have happened in any other way, but I don't think it could have happened in any other way. I know it couldn't have happened any other way, for a literal sense, but also kind of figurative as well. I would assume that this Austin would not have been here if I would have went through those, years in music school and so on and so forth. So, in the mental sense, accepting responsibility and accountability, looking towards the future with in setting goals that are not only a bit abrasive for the individual that you are in that moment, but also in something that entices you, that incentivizes you to move forward and to say like, hey, I accomplished this, and this is just like that dopamine rush is incredible, especially when you accomplish feats. Not only if you have a long-term goal that you kind of accomplish early, but like just accomplishing some of the bigger goals that do have that little bit of anxiety that's put to them. Mm-hmm. Like when you accomplish those, it is just the most incredible feeling. Like that, not only the rush, but the sense of achievement where you have surrounded yourself in which that goal has given you the environment and the character and the evolution and the evolution of you having gotten to that point not only gives you the appreciation for putting yourself in that situation that is so uncomfortable, and well, the level of uncomfortableness is dependent upon your willingness to challenge yourself, but the ability to have gotten to that goal in the first place, having that pathway that may have been extremely arduous or maybe not have been as arduous as you may have assumed it to be, just makes it so much better knowing that when you had the choice, when I was in the situation, especially in 2024, when I was under the impression that I'm probably going to relapse again, nobody's giving me any confidence whatsoever that this would have worked. Coming out of Houston, coming out of the autologous stem cell transplant, autologous CAR T cell therapy, coming out of that, nobody was confident at all, and so that bled into me. Mm-hmm. That lack of, I hate saying this, the lack of hope that people had in and the lack of confidence that people had in this having done the trick, this having ended my my cancer journey, and so that I could begin remission, was so present, so prevalent in their words, in their face. Everything was just pointing in the direction that I'm going to relapse again. That is where I had to make a choice. I said, Austin, you can go about this two ways. You can see this as an opportunity to ready yourself, to prepare yourself for what sounds like is going to happen, and that is a bone marrow transplant, thankfully autologous. You can prepare yourself for this. You can prepare your body. You can prepare your mind. My spirit was pretty much there, but certainly was challenged in the BMT. And then emotionally, I was pretty much there as well, especially with all the work that you had helped me with. When we did the CAR T cell therapy, obviously we had the bone marrow transplant in the back of our minds, and that was extremely helpful. But I either had the opportunity to prepare myself in the best way possible to be able to deal with an autologous bone marrow transplant, which was going to be hell. It was going to be days and weeks and months of hell for me. But that was the next best step and the best step. That was pretty much a guarantee that it was going to work, especially when we looked upon the statistics. When you looked at the progression-free survival rate of 5 years and plus, The numbers were pretty darn
Quite profound.
and telling, and really, really telling that maybe we should have done that first. But that's not the way the cookie crumbled, and maybe it's a good thing that it didn't crumble that way. So I had two choices. The first choice was to prepare myself to be able to tackle that, to take on the responsibility of what life was handing me in that moment, and to reach for the stars in terms of preparedness of what I could accomplish before this bone marrow transplant, during it, and then after it. Mm-hmm. And that's the choice that I made, by the way. Everything's worked out great. Mm-hmm. Or I had the choice to lean into the grasping of those cold, clawing hands that malevolence possesses, and to fall into that sort of tar pit that I was back in 2022 mm-hmm. during my time with the Cleveland Clinic. Yeah. I could have done that. That was my other choice. I could have just accepted my fate, taken in the nihilistic or even existentialist perspective, which I was certainly very, very close to in those moments, mm-hmm. both in 2022 and 2024 after Houston, that I could have succumbed to the pressure and laid into my desires like kind of like the in 1917, the movie, where mm-hmm. he sort of just sits down at the tree and just rests his head back. I could have done that. And just fall into that chasm. But I reminded myself that this is quite clearly a one route scenario. There was only one choice for me. That, especially with Impossible Performance, especially with the family that we've created here, ultimately I did not have a choice. I was to choose the route that most evolved Austin into something that was going to be beneficial for everybody. That was taking responsibility, accepting the accountability, and ultimately reaching for the stars that gave me the confidence and the know-how and the will to really come out on top of life.
Yeah.
Even through the most arduous times.
Yeah. Yeah, you touched on a lot of really good points throughout that journey. And I think one of the biggest ones, one where we have to start, and one where so many of us get trapped, and I say that because I've been trapped there before, is that simply allowing yourself to believe that potential exists. Mm. Simply allowing yourself to believe that not only are you capable of that potential, of that outcome, but that you're worthy of that potential or that outcome. That's a huge piece that is very difficult to foster within yourself. And I think so many times we get stopped from even attempting to venture down that path of where we want to go, mm-hmm. what we would ideally like to see for our lives, because we just get held up on this disbelief in, oh, that would be amazing, but that's for these other people. That's not for me because of this, and this. And the simple answer is that that's just not true. Nobody who's been wherever it is you want to go got there without struggle, mm-hmm. without challenge, without reasons that they shouldn't have been there at all, you know? And anybody who does get there without that wouldn't even have the capacity to appreciate that situation. So we have to first start with this, culminating this belief in ourselves that, yes, I am capable of more. Yes, I deserve that which it is I'm pursuing. And I have a path forward I can take to get there. I can build the type of person who will achieve that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where the being impossible starts. That's where this journey of, looking up, reaching for the stars all begins. And I think it's not something that generally, sometimes for people, it's like a switch, it just flicks on and you're never you're just never, you're just a different person now. Nothing's ever the same again. Some people that happens to. I don't think that's the case for most, though. And in my case, and I know in your case, it's a gradual progression of something you build in yourself on a daily basis. And through building that belief system in yourself, you start to rewire your thoughts, your emotions, your physical actions, the state of your spiritual being. Because where one domain goes, so follows the others. So if you're allowing yourself to, like you had said, if you would have allowed yourself to slip into that chasm of suffering and pain, that state of victimhood, had you allowed yourself to slip into there mentally or emotionally, you would have ended up falling into that with each of the 4 domains of performance. You would have fallen in there physically, you would have fallen there spiritually, and it would have started setting a new direction, a new definition for your life, and one that would not have brought any level of comfort or growth or grace.
Well, and but I feel that comfort can be one of the most prevailing sentiment of what causes that in the first place, is what causes you to be, because you really hit it on there, is that it's permission. Mm-hmm. You're unable to give yourself permission to do something that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And I'll repeat that. You are unable to give you the permission to do something that you have always wanted to do. Comfort comes in as comfort is what brings those claws to the majority of people, mm-hmm. because they can say, okay, well, I all that incredible stuff, I'm just going to leave that to those guys, to those people, like you were saying, and I'm just going to sit back, and I have found comfort in just having pizza when I want. I have found comfort in, just kind of sitting down. I'm gonna binge watch this show, and you know what? I'm gonna binge watch that show after I'm done binge watching this show. And I've been in that position. So there, those of you who are saying that people don't do this, it happens all the time, and most possibly to you as well. Is that you find that rhythm of comfort being so seductive for a part of you that is unwilling to give the permission to the good side of you to show its beautiful glory. It is unwilling to permit any sort of progress to be made. And it's scary how that comes from within somebody. Mm-hmm. I have felt for years this unwillingness to expose myself and to remove myself from those levels of comfort that are just so, it's a warm blanket. It's sitting beside a fire that is just that you don't have to take care of. It's weird because it's in your mind, but it's so easy to put analogy to it, like somebody's just continuously stoking and rebuilding the fire for you. You're just, it's so comforting. It's just, it's so warm, and it feels like you're being held. But that's because you're being held back from achieving something so absolutely wonderful. Mm-hmm. And it's dependent upon you. I mean, we're not saying go out and becoming the next, president of the country that you're living in, but going and achieving something that you've always wanted to achieve. When it comes to you stopping yourself from that, it's, the antidote to releasing from that comfort for a moment. And it's not like you can't go back to that. It's not like you can't find an evolved version of that, a different perspective of comfort. Like, I promise you in the future, like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to sit down and enjoy a good scotch and a cigar, looking at, the mountains of the Highlands. Like, that's going to happen. I'm going to have my downtime like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But right now, you need to work your tail off to get to that point. You need to work towards something that is just that would utterly astonish you in being achieved by you. But it's really not that difficult to get there.
Yeah.
The most difficult part, at least for me, was until I had put the cart all the way ahead of the horse on the path. Was I like, hey, maybe I just need to, because I like you said, there's no flip of the switch, at least for me. But there is a kind of a flip of, all right, today I'm going to do this one thing. And then next week I'm going to do these two things every day. And then so on and so forth. You build upon that, and then you realize that you can train the horse to get you to that cart. And then once you find that cart, you're gonna look around and go like, whoa, like,
How'd I end up here?
Like, I'm in pretty good shape right now. My mind is sharp.
Yeah.
My body is precise. Or my body is my body's in a beautiful position. My mind is great, and my focus is precise. That's what I was looking for. Sorry. We got to get there. Your focus is precise. And once you find yourself up to the cart and you're like, hey, well, there's only one direction to go now. It's just to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's in giving yourself, because it's you that has to give you the permission to move forward. And that is, and this is something that a lot of you have heard and will continue to hear, is that's going to occur when you accept some sort of responsibility, whether it is responsibility of yourself, well, definitely responsibility for yourself, or maybe even the responsibility of others, of taking care of others. I've read a lot of stories of men and women who have, changed, really altered their course of life because they then all of a sudden had a responsibility of somebody else's life on their hands. And there's something really, really beautiful to be taken from that, because it's, whether it's forced upon you or not, accepting that responsibility is how you get over that hump, is how you allow yourself to then permit the good Matt, the good Austin, the good side of you to really, really expose its glory upon the rest of the world, and really show others, because it's not only for self. It's not only for self. It is for everybody. It's for everybody, and that's why accepting that transformation and giving permission and accepting responsibility and accountability, it's not just glorious for yourself. It's glorious for everybody, because everybody benefits from it. Everybody's going to benefit from it. Those that you love, those that you will come to love in the future, and then everybody beyond that. So it's, giving yourself permission in those times of where comfort is just so alluring. It's so seductive in its words, and its care, and its extremely lucrative, maliciously gazing at you as if you're a piece of meat, like that, or a piece of celery. Get that out of your head as being an option. Don't take that route.
Yeah.
Do not take that route.
Yeah, I'm really glad you stopped me there, actually, because you bring up a really good point. We recorded a whole podcast on that subject of comfort being this kind of betraying thing. Whereas if you allow yourself to dive too deeply into it, it can consume you and control you and completely take you off the path of where it is you're headed. But I think there's actually, like, what you brought up there highlights kind of a dichotomy to comfort, in that yes, if you're in this position where you're just immersing yourself in comfort, you're binge watching TV shows on evenings and weekends whenever you get a chance, you eat simply based off of pleasure, you never work to train your body or your mind or to grow, you essentially become a victim of the circumstances rather than the visionary constructor of your own reality. When you're in that position, you are deeply immersed in what we would call comfort. But I don't think anybody who's totally immersed in that position truly feels comfortable deep within themselves.
No, absolutely not.
And so there's actually, you're essentially using comfort to distract yourself from the discomfort of reality. Mm-hmm. Whereas the other way around, and I definitely can change the wording of that. But what I had brought up previously was the antithesis to that, which is when you immerse yourself in consistent acts of discomfort that trigger and in some ways force growth and development, then you can actually sit back and enjoy the comfort of reality. When you construct your day such that you're growing mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and you're using that strength and growth to serve others, you can sit back at the end of that day and look at your day like you said, I accomplished a lot today. It was very challenging. It was very difficult. But I'm happy. And I can take peace of mind and comfort, or whatever word it is you want to throw at it. You can take some level of contentedness just from the knowledge of what you endured that day, what you suffered through, what you strived for, what you created, what you built. And that actually brings a comforting perspective to your reality. And so you have to choose one of those two options, I think. I don't think there's any other nature in which the human spirit can exist. But I know for myself, and I believe for everyone, the latter is ultimately more gratifying.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. And so there's this dichotomous approach to the world of comfort. And I think that ties into this concept of reaching for the stars, this building of the impossible version of yourself. Because the only way you will ever get to that doing the impossible is to build someone who is capable of it. Mm-hmm. If you, as who you are right now, are 100% capable of whatever it is you're chasing, then you need to set a higher goal. You need to set a higher standard. You have more potential open to you. And if there's nothing else you take away from this episode today, it would be that. And I think this is the hardest part of our message for people to grasp. Even people who have followed us for years, even people who know us incredibly well, even ourselves sometimes, this is the hardest part to grasp. This idea that you have to set your sights on something beyond what is comfortable, beyond what you believe you're capable of, beyond what you can do right now in this moment. And then you work to build the person who is capable of achieving those things that you yourself are not capable of right now. Mm-hmm. That's the impossible version of yourself. That's the becoming impossible. And then that person will be capable of doing that thing. At no point in my life have I been capable of squatting 500 pounds until I went through the long, arduous, incredibly uncomfortable process of building that man. And while I had to build up a lot on the physical side, there was so much more I had to build on the mental, emotional, and spiritual side. And after I did that 500-pound squat, as I've told you before, that was one of those moments where I came out from under that bar a different man than I stepped under that bar as. And it's not that my whole life radically changed and everything I wanted changed or my course changed. It was my default level of strength and fortitude changed. It got an instant boost and increase. There have been so many areas of my life that I deeply struggled with before that moment that I have not remotely struggled with in the same capacity since. And that's a very powerful thing for you to be able to change and grow that significantly in, I would say, one instantaneous moment, but it wasn't that moment specifically that changed me. It was everything I did building up to that moment. And then the culmination of that all coming together, that moment playing out how it did. And then coming out of that moment with the realization of, again, there's so much more out there. There are so many more stars I can chase. There's a world of potential beyond anything I've allowed myself to believe. And that is all accessible to me. Not only is it accessible to me, but I can earn that place among the stars. I'm worthy of that place among the stars. And while it's going to be extremely uncomfortable, it's going to involve massive challenge, it's going to involve massive discomfort. If I commit myself to not just enduring that every day, but to striving for that, to chasing that, to pursuing that, expand that out over a long enough time horizon, and I will find myself there as the man I've always dreamed of becoming.
And taking that moment to, like I said before, there's a time and place to reflect, and that is the time and place to reflect. Is when you is when you, bit of words, when you have reached that star, when you have found yourself upon that peak, that is the best time to look back and go, whoa. Look at what not only what I had to go through to achieve this, but look at the person that I was 6 months ago, a year ago, and in your case for the 500-pound squat. How long was that journey?
It was, I would call it 2 years from the first time it was conceptualized.
So for that 2-year journey, just thinking of who and what Matt was at the beginning of that, saying, let's do 500 pounds, to then actually doing it. I mean, just taking a look back at that, like I do the same thing when I look back upon the Austin that was on this earth in December of 2021. Like I look back at that because that's pretty much right before I started getting tested, because January 2nd is when I started getting tested for all this stuff. When I see him in the days that I look back, apologies. I see him with a very different perspective on life, seated in a very different position in life, but so lost. I was grabbing at an opportunity that had come to me, but I was still months away from that ever beginning. And I sat there I was so ready for change. I was so ready for something else because I had felt lost just for so long. I mean, early 2018, because November of 2017 is when my life changed, not for the best. And for years, I sat in that world of comfort, of avoiding discomfort. I really love that piece, by the way. That's very much agreed to the tenfold on that, or to the 10th degree. I lived in that world for years, lost. I found that I had this opportunity to come up to continue my studies in music, and I saw that as this like, oh, I'm gonna get my life back on track. I found something. I now have at least a port to which I wanted to sail to. Mm-hmm. But my gosh, the ship that I had in that moment had so many holes in it. The sails would have been made of just the thinnest of cloths or whatever they make sails out of. And I was the willingness was there, but I was so unprepared as a human to be ready for such an achievement. But I mean, again, that's because I took I was willing to take on an opportunity that that made me uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I was thinking of studying in a completely different country, country that speaks English, but still, like I was intending on living for 2, 3, 4+ years in a different country, under a different government.
Which would have been quite the feat for who you were back then.
Oh, absolutely quite the feat. Because again, the ship that I had built up until that point had holes. It would have been treacherous. It wouldn't have been treacherous waters. It would have been treacherous full-time plus overtime work trying to keep the boat afloat. Would have been my challenge. And so looking upon that person in comparison to who I am now, it is just night and day. And I feel that I'm in a position now to look back. I can take a moment. You can take that moment after you've accomplished something incredible and just look back and go, wow, I am very different from that person in a very good way too. So,
yeah. And it's it's this period of reflection that I find is one of the most interesting aspects now that you and I have been down this road, this journey for a considerable amount of time. And this is something I hadn't really considered when I first kind of constructed this idea of face the impossible, be impossible, do the impossible. There's this part that exists. It's kind of a cyclical journey by nature, but there's this part that exists where as you continue going through this cycle time and again, and you spend the majority of your time in this becoming impossible phase, where you do reflect back on previous parts of your journey. And it's so interesting. I'd be interested to see if you feel similarly. When I go back, because a lot of the content I've been creating and posting recently has been kind of this transformative style content, which does seem to have strong level of impact on people. It's why I'm leaning into it at the moment, because I think it shows the sharp contrast of here's where I was. It was not good. Yeah. It was real bad. Here's where I was. And here's where I've gotten to despite that. And I use that as an example to show people, like, hang on, no matter where you are right now, don't you dare allow yourself to accept a limiting belief just because you or worse, somebody else in your life is placing that upon you. Because even if you're, the one I posted yesterday was an old video of me. It was literally the day of my amputation, June 10th, 2013. Mm-hmm. And I'm climbing up out of bed, getting on a walker. I've got 2 nurses pushing both of my IV poles, and I'm like hopping using this walker. And I took 4 or 5 paces and then went straight back to the bed, But I was getting up and walking in the way that I could the day of my amputation, Going from that to cut scene squatting 500 pounds. That's a very, very, very sharp contrast. And it's so interesting for me now as I'm building this content, looking back on some of those photos and those videos. Even in the photos and videos where I'm blackout drunk, completely out of control in the very darkest periods of my life, I feel a very immense amount of compassion and empathy for that person, which is really interesting for me because I would have always thought that I would maybe feel like disgust or disdain for who that person was because I was living so far below my potential. And in fact, I wasn't even pursuing my potential in any capacity, especially during the periods where I was drinking heavily. But that's not the emotion I feel. It's largely a compassion and an empathy for that person. And I don't think I've always felt that way, certainly. But I do think I've built that emotion up over a number of times of running this cycle. The greater of an impossible version of myself, so too follows my empathy for the former version of myself. I think it's because I had to go through that darkness to become who I am today. I had to go through that pain, that discomfort. I had to run from it, only to realize that there was nowhere to run. And so when I reach that concrete wall where I can run no further, the only place to go from there is to turn around and look up. And so I think, in a way, I've developed a gratitude for not just that part of my journey, but that person that I was. Not that I am glad I had to go through that. Not that, certainly not that I ever want anybody else to go through that. But rather, that was part of this cycle. It was part of this journey. It was the first time I learned to face something impossible. And without having done that, I would have never been able to turn around, look up to the stars, realize that there's something else out here. There's more out here. And so I'm actually quite happy, quite thankful now that I am able to look back on those times with gratitude, with compassion, with empathy, because I know where it was leading. It led to here. And had I not built what I've been able to build through this mindset, through this mission, I would never be able to have that level of compassion and empathy and gratitude. Because if it had led somewhere even darker or led to no growth beyond that point, I probably would look back with a lot of disgust and disdain. And I probably would be in a victimhood mentality where I would blame all of my problems on that former version of myself. Like, oh, if I'd have just never started drinking then I'd never be, in this horrible spot that I am today. That would be my story. But because I was able to make that decision to turn around, look up at the stars, take one step forward with absolutely no idea what I was doing, not even any level of belief in myself, my own capacity to even get there. But because I started that journey, I was able to build an impossible version of myself. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one, to the point that we are where we are today. And now that I'm here, I can look back and be grateful for the person who made that decision. Even though at that point I was totally enveloped in darkness, completely devoid of the pursuit of something impossible, completely devoid of even my own potential. Having not even given myself the permission to chase something that I deeply wanted, as you've said. That person is where this journey started. Without them, there never would be where we are today. And so I think that's a really a really interesting piece of this journey, this kind of reflection period that I'd never envisioned when I first built this kind of mindset. And so it's kind of interesting to find those pieces to the puzzle along the way that I never could have anticipated. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on how do you look back on some of those former versions of yourself. Is it in the same capacity, or is it different at this point?
Well, all right. I to be blunt, I struggle mightily with offering any compassion or empathy towards my former self, because not that I well, no. Judgment is there. Judgment has been given upon that person, and I've struggled with permitting myself to not allow my current judge, jury, and executioner mind of punishing it so damning, that former self. And I think that's something that just stems from growing up. Like no compassion or empathy was offered. Nothing that I had experienced to any profound degree. So offering compassion and empathy for my former self has been a very, very difficult challenge. And part of that I use as fuel moving forward. I really do, because then since I am somehow unable to offer up any measurable degree of compassion and empathy for my former self, I work hard so that my current and future self can be looked upon in a much more positive light, and to be positioned within a much more positive manner, so that 10 years from now, when I look back upon myself now, I can be, all right, there's the change. That's what I was looking for. That's what I needed to do. Awesome. I'm happy here. I'm happy seeing that. I'm happy reading into that. I'm happy watching that. But right now in this moment, if you were to ask me, looking at 2019, 2020 Austin, are you offering up any compassion? No, not in the slightest. And I don't know what all of you think of that. I don't know what to think of that. I want to be less judgmental, but growing up, judgment was everything. Judging others was just the hot button. And that is just my gut reaction when I look back upon myself and others of my past. I'm so filled with this putting that reflection and just the like through the ringer. Like it's in the courtroom constantly. That's just the immediate reaction, I suppose, to any sort of reflective period. And that is something that I do struggle with. I'm working on it, obviously. I want to, like I said before, I want to be able to give those multiple versions of Austin throughout those periods a little bit of leeway, like, man, like I understand that you weren't in the best position and you weren't making the best of choices, but like we can't. It is a situation to where I found myself spending too much time now working on, so I've set it off to the side for now, to make sure that, like I said, that I currently am working towards something that in the future my future self will be happy with. But no, I've it's a little bit on the afterburner. The thought of allowing any sort of empathy for him.
Well, and I actually fully expected you to answer that way.
Yeah.
Because that's where you are in the journey right now. That's where you are in the process. You know, I largely had my most critical turning point in a more positive direction in October of 2017, the end of October of 2017. And so it's been quite a long time since I've been on this journey continuously. And if you had asked me that same question I asked you back in 2019, 2020, 2021, it would have been an answer very synonymous with yours, you know? So I think it's part of the process. I think you have to, you know, like we talked about last week with the concept of discipline and what drives it. You know, you can have something you're working toward, or you can simply have something that you so desperately want to escape and climb out of. And I think that was I know that was a large driving point for me when I first started. And I believe that was a large driving point for you when you first started. Mm-hmm. And so when that is your perspective, when you're wanting to escape something, when you're wanting to drive away from something, it's going to be natural and it's going to be normal to have some kind of disdain, some anger, some disgust with that former version of yourself. This, why couldn't you have been better? Mm-hmm. I think that's normal.
Yeah.
And I think the only antidote to that is to grow so much to a capacity that you reach a state of knowing you will never go back to that place. Like, to me, I know that I will never drink again. I know that I will never let myself fall into that place. And I think that that's shocking for people to hear. Not that it's never challenging, not that it's never tempting, but I know that I will never go back there. And I can say that with 100% absolute certainty. Because the man I've built and the position I've built offers such great comfort in the reality of where I am now. Mm-hmm. That's something I'll never give up. I will never give up. I don't even know that I have the capacity to give it up, even if I wanted to. And so it'll be interesting for you to, I think you've chosen the appropriate course of action. It's kind of on the back burner for now. You're more focused on who you're building at the moment, as you should be, than really even it's worth to sit back and take the time to ponder.
It's not worth the time.
Exactly. It's not worth the energy. It's not worth the resource right now.
To not necessarily reflect, like, I still, there's analyzation, and then there's like a mental reflection of putting myself back in that position and going like, where can I give this person forgiveness? Those are two completely different things. So the analysis is there. Like, I see what I've done in the past and go, all right, man, we can do much better than that. To watch my vocabulary there, but it's definitely, there's definitely room for reflecting in terms of like, let's study this, but to sit there and like to try to offer that, and for me personally, it's just like offering forgiveness and stuff like that. I hold forgiveness in two different realms. One of just being like forgiveness for others, like, you know, in terms of like transgressions, it's there. But forgiveness for myself right now in 2018, 2019, hell no. Nope. Yeah. That's not going to come for a while.
Yeah.
But and that's
totally fine. That's part of the journey. What I think is going to be interesting though is as you continue down this journey and you get to that person that you will have built 5 years, 10 years from now, I'll be really interested, really excited to ask you the same question then. And I'm betting you'll have a different answer. But we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
But that is what I really love about this process and this journey, and what I'm really excited about, especially for you right now, in regards to some of the things you're pursuing, some of the things you're building, these impossible versions of yourself you've committed yourself to, is that you will have these opportunities, and you already can make these kind of posts, or you can create this kind of contrasting, transformative content. But what's going to be really cool is that you're starting to come on the precipice now of being able to really have that shock, not just for the people that get to view the content, but for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's been such an incredibly therapeutic part for me to be able to go back and look at some of those old pictures, pull them out of the trenches of Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to go back and view that and be like,
it's a wild trip, man.
It's crazy, but it's been quite therapeutic for me now to be able to build these little kind of mini episodes of looking back of, holy crap, the process of going from here I am in this bar so drunk that I didn't even know these pictures were taken, to squatting 500 pounds, to running marathons, to speaking on podcasts, to doing whatever it is we're doing now, but in the next 6 months to a year to 5 years to 10 years, you're going to have some extremely profound moments like that. And I'm excited for you to be able to experience that, to have witness to that in your own life. Even if it's not something you ever choose to make public, just having that for yourself personally is powerful. Because I know right now you've just recently committed, and it's a journey you've been on for a while, but you've just recently committed yourself to an even significantly higher level of the pursuit, mm-hmm. in reaching for those stars in your own physique, in your own health, in your own wellness, your own personal discipline. And I'm really excited to see where it leads.
Oh, I am as well.
Yeah.
I am as well. I'm excited to see where we are, a year from now, 2 years from now. It's going to be something incredible.
Yeah.
But that's the other beautiful piece is that, yes, I'm extremely excited to see where I am 6 months to a year from now, but I'm excited to see where we are, because it's the podcast Impossible and the people around us are equally as important, mm-hmm. as myself. And I know I don't know if that sounds strange to people or not, but it doesn't sound strange to me, because I know I am forever grateful for those who stuck around when I was going through moments to where I was not present for them at all, but they were still present for me. That meant it means stop. It means so much to me that what I'm doing for myself now, I've come to realize that I have chosen not for there to be such a selfish twinge to it. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want that to be the main cursor, the main motivator. Like that is, I'm gonna be so happy. I will be so happy when I am lean, muscular, looking great, and conquering challenges that I've faced for decades now. That, of course, yeah, I'm stoked to be finally attacking that self. But my word, this is so much for others and our future just as much as it is for me. Yeah. And I take so much pride in being able to say that now, because that's another thing that, for me back then would have been everything's for me. Me. And that is another thing that's just I've come to struggle with. But looking and reaching for the stars, permitting myself that responsibility, that realization that the future can be so bright, the vista can be so grandiose and just so beautiful that it takes more than just one. It takes, mm-hmm. an army.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why you're going to have such a different outcome this time. Why you're going to find so much success and so much growth in this particular leg of the journey is because you're at a point now, probably more so than ever before in your life, where you can actually look at what you're going to build, what you're actively building now, and say, I'm building this version of myself so that I can give it to everyone who needs it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will even include some of the former versions of yourself. But I'm excited for you, brother. So for the people who don't know and haven't heavily followed along for kind of this phase in your journey, now that, not that cancer is something you can just put behind you at this point, but now that it's something that you're in a place where for the first time since it started, you can actually allow yourself to look forward into what lies out there for me beyond this. Let everybody know kind of what it is you're building, what it is you're planning right at this moment in your own impossible pursuit with physique, with health, with everything.
It's just a general update.
Yeah.
I've taken upon myself to hire a coach.
Yeah.
Mr. Josh Bridgman. He's on Instagram, YouTube. Really awesome guy. Just in our initial contact here, super excited, motivating, and but also we just in our initial discussion, it seems like we both have this appreciation for the path itself, not just the result. And I've always loved his content. I've been following him for a few years now, and I decided, what's the best way to get into shape? I've been attempting for about a year and a half now, and this is exactly what I told him. I'm like, I need to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. I've gotten to this point to where I've added on some muscle, I've taken off some fat, but I just don't have the know-how. I don't have the tools. Yes, there's YouTube there, and there's all these things that I could go out and search, but for 6 months, getting coached by someone who has walked the walk quite intently and with precision, if I can become the grasshopper, the young grasshopper, mm-hmm. if I can become the Padawan for just a moment, I'm going to take that. So I've signed up for the coaching, and so I very much intend on having a physique transition over the next 6 months and beyond. But also, this is going to impact my mental and spiritual and emotional sense as well, because as you alluded to before, when one goes up, the rest follow, mm-hmm. especially if it's really super beneficial, and that's what this is going to be. I've always struggled with body image issues. That's why you don't really see me on the socials with my shirt off. That's I just don't want it to happen, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to the degree of which, I want it to be I want to be able to walk. I'm not going to do this, but I want to be in the mindset to where I want to walk around the gym without a shirt on. That is the physique that I want to present, and again, it's not just for myself. Yes, I'm gonna conquer a fear that I've held for so long, mm-hmm. That's fairly unjustified. But it's also for everyone around to be like, hey, I'm not even, because I'll be 18 months ish off of a autologous bone marrow transplant, something that I almost lost my life from, to being jacked. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's yes, it's for me, but it's for everybody else. It's hey, I went through some really, mm-hmm. However you define a cancer journey, guess what? It's some rough stuff. And going through that rough stuff, you have the choice of saying, I'm going to lay down, or I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something about this, about that. I'm going to look towards the stars. I'm going to reach for those stars, and I'm getting to one of those mofos, and I'm going to continue to reach other ones as well, like you were saying. And this is me reaching for the stars and showing all of you that doing this is possible. And it frustrates me that I didn't do this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, but now I'm here and I'm doing it. So I'm going to conquer that. I'm conquering the mind. We have books coming out, and I'm so excited to write and to publish for you all, and for you to read what we're trying and what we're doing here. We're doing the impossible so that you can do the impossible as well. I'm shaking the table. And this is...
It's okay. You won't be able to next episode.
Right. And so it's just so like belligerently exciting.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly enticing the next 6 months for myself, but for us and for Impossible and for all of you. This is some really incredible stuff is coming up, and it's hard to keep the excitement in, but we have to stay focused.
Yeah.
The job is not done,
Yeah.
and it'll never be done as far as I'm aware of.
And as I said earlier, where one domain goes, so follows the others. I think, and I wonder if maybe you've even realized this yet, I think one of the main draws that you're feeling toward this level of commitment to this goal that you've wanted for so long, and you're finally ready to actually sit down and make it happen, is that you've built the emotional, the spiritual, the mental fortitude. And so now it's not only that you want, it's just a natural flow of progression, that your mental, spiritual, and emotional fortitude is so great that it's now you're in a place where you demand the same from a physical perspective.
Mm-hmm. The column is not weak, but the others have been able to showcase their rigidity, their stableness. Stability. I don't know if I just made up a word there or not, but like, yes, yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly that it's the other components have been fairly structured for quite some time, and the physical nature again has somewhat climbed up, but I think I need to, like, I'm ready for the next. When you see like the Roman columns and stuff and the Greek columns have how they're sections. I need to add another section because the other three are a bit higher than the physical nature, and so I need that next step. I need that next piece, and that next piece is really, really going to add so much value to self. And I'm sure a lot of people struggle with maybe permitting physical vanity as like a term of value for self, but it's come to that position for me, at least in terms of just fighting a fear that I've had, for the body image issue. Like for me, and what is valuable to me to conquer the fear of self-image being so negative for so long is getting ripped and lean as much as I can. And will it work 6 months from now? I don't know. There's only one way to find out. So
yeah, and without fail, by committing yourself to this process, you will be farther along 6 months from. Yeah, you may not be final form 6 months from now,
right,
but you'll be farther along than you ever would have been had you not made this commitment and stepped onto this journey. And the other thing I would say is that it's simply just you accepting an external reflection of what you've built internally.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I just know that body image is very much a hot.
Oh, it's a hot topic. But here's the other thing. Here's my big thing with body image is like, yes, you cannot let all of your value that you have for yourself be placed on what you physically look like.
To replace the possible insecurities and what would you call that? The insufficient nature of that which sits inside. Yeah. But you hit the nail on the head. Is that what sits inside is pretty damn stable right now. Yeah. And so it's just let's look in a mirror and go, I'm not going to move from this position for a moment and get into other, it's going to be a good time.
And that's what it is. It's with the whole body image thing is it's, yes, you can't let your whole self-value be rooted and dictated by your physical appearance. You can't allow that to be the sole thing that defines who you are and your value for yourself. But there's no reason it can't have a place in that value and in that definition, because you've built so much strength and fortitude emotionally, mentally, and spiritually that now you hold a higher standard for yourself physically. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, when I have a very high level physique, I'm going to be extremely happy with that, and happy with the person who built that, and happy with just that state of existence, and very proud of that. There's nothing wrong with being proud of having gone through a journey and worked very hard and accepted a high level of discomfort to build something that is incredibly rare. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think that sometimes we fall into this trap of, especially online and with social media, of, I think body positivity is great, and loving who you are and valuing who you are, no matter where you are in that journey, is fantastic. But I also think we have a responsibility to work to build ourselves up to become as healthy as possible, and to help support whatever it is we want for our own self-image as much as possible. I'm not saying there's a specific standard we all have to chase, but I think we need to all set a standard for ourselves, mm-hmm. and be willing to pursue that. And I think that has to be true for all 4 domains of performance, and not just physical. And so because of that, I really see this as not even you just like clawing and suffering and reaching for this next impossible thing. I see it as you simply, not that it'll be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I see it simply as you just welcoming in a new level of physical performance to basically to match the mental, spiritual, and emotional that you've already built. And that's quite exciting. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for you, brother. And it's that same kind of mindset that I've brought to my own health journey the last several months. And mm-hmm. I need to sit down and chat more about this to the listeners, but I've cut now almost 40 pounds and working my way down to 50 since the competition. And that's been an incredibly exciting process for me. But for me, it's
some incredible stuff, man.
Well, it's most exciting because it's never felt, this is going to sound weird, but it's never felt this easy before. And not that it has been easy. There's been challenge and discomfort and plateaus to it. But I've never been more sure of myself in this journey before. I've never been able to stave off temptation more easily. I've never been able to overcome the challenges and the obstacles and find opportunity in them in this specific pursuit like I have been before. And I think it's that same nature as far as where you are in the journey right now. Like I've still got a significant amount of weight to cut before I fully step into the phase of wanting to really build muscle and optimize physique and things like that. Like right now I'm pretty much like, I'm still training and everything, but I'm more focused in just like cutting weight first. Like I want to get that weight down first.
Competing in 110?
No. I will not become a victim.
110 kg, it's okay.
Okay, 110 kg. Yeah. I'll allow that. Yeah. I'll allow that.
Yeah.
But but anyway, I think you're going to find this same kind of path when you start going down it, is you build up. And what I built from doing that 500-pound squat, the reason I believe it's been such a contrasting difference this time is because I built such a high level of mental, emotional, and spiritual strength mm-hmm. from the process of going through that 500-pound squat that I never had access to before, that now on this physical journey, even though it's a physical journey, there's emotional, spiritual, and mental challenges that come with it. And now the strength level is so high in those domains that it makes it so much easier to navigate the challenges that come in those areas than it ever has been before. Mm-hmm. And so now I can more easily navigate those challenges and really just focus on the physical side of what I'm doing. And I found a process that seems to really work for me right now. And if it ever stops working, I'll reassess, readjust, and find a new path forward. But it's been so cool to be on this journey where now we're coming up to the end of 2025. And rather than having to think about starting a New Year's resolution, I'll be able to start the new year 50 pounds lighter than I was 6 months ago, you know, and that's a really cool feeling to have. So it's,
and the transformation's been just impeccable, dude.
Oh, it just feels a lot better.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Just feels a lot better. Like even today when we got in the cold plunge, I pulled out this old pair of my like compression shorts that I have that like, dude, I haven't worn those in probably 2 years because they just haven't fit anymore, but they're so nice. They're nice Under Armour ones. So held on to them, and I pulled them out today because I just had nothing else to wear. I was like, we'll see how these go. And I put them on. They actually fit extremely well. I was like, holy crap, you know, you don't even realize some of those things sometimes.
When I have some button shirts that like, they fit up top fine and have a little bit of room for me to grow up top, which is kind of the point. But they don't have room around the gut, and they haven't had room there and for so long, and that is just infuriating. It really that's what really ticks me off. And there's some nice shirts too, some nice dress shirts, and so I don't know. It's either going to be I fit into those and everything's hunky dory, or it just means that, you know, maybe my chest and my arms just get so huge that I have to go out and buy new shirts, and I mean that wouldn't be a problem either. So
yeah, you'll accept that one.
Yeah, I either of those choices are just fine.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments, because I know we actually covered quite a bit of controversial topics today. We weren't necessarily intending on that, but that's how that happened. So yep. Just gonna set the world on fire and see how it glows.
Everything's fine. A bright future. That's what we were looking for.
Absolutely. So let us know in the comments your guys' thoughts. If you have any personal experience on a lot of these topics, let us know, because we love hearing from you guys, because we learn so much of the time. We end up learning more about our own message from you guys than we ever could have come to ourselves. And if you want to become a deeper part of this conversation, like I said at the beginning, click that link below in the show notes, sign up for our school online community, become a part of that community. It's still free to do right now. You can sign up for free, enter into the discussion. And then if you want some of the more advanced benefits that come with it, there are subscription options as well. So definitely at least go on, check it out, read some of the conversations we've had, and see if it's something you want to get involved in, because we would love to have you guys. Because at the end of the day, that's everything we are striving to build at Impossible Performance. Because here we are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. Thank you guys for listening, and as always, be impossible.